Hey guys, I'm back for more E3 stuff. Finally, with Nintendo's conference. This is gonna be the video for that. But since Nintendo showed a grand total of 2 games, I'm gonna be combining the Nintendo conference discussion and my overall thoughts. All right, so Nintendo's conference. Okay, so Nintendo's conference. Okay, so Nintendo's conference. All right, whatever. It wasn't really a conference. It was more of a treehouse segment. I'd never watched the treehouse segments before. It was one of those things where I'm watching. I'm like, am I watching the right thing? I don't feel like I am because I missed it going live. So I had to find a broadcast. Of which I'm not sure if I even watched the right one. I think I did. It was labeled Nintendo E3 2016 press conference, so I'm gonna assume that it was the right thing. Anyway, so they showed 2 games primarily. The new Legend of Zelda, now being named Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Strange name. I'll get to that later. And they also showed some stuff from Pokemon Sun and Moon. And that's it. Which I find interesting because it's not like Nintendo is going to be that strenuous on releases this year. There's Paper Mario Color Splash. They could have shown a couple stuff from that. There's a couple other things they could have shown this E3 but chose not to. Even though Zelda is a primary thing, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, guys, come on. Especially with the Pokemon Sun and Moon segment. Let's talk about the Pokemon segment first. So, I am a Pokemon fan, so I do believe I'm going to get the next Pokemon, no matter what it is. The problem is that they started with a new Zelda trailer, and then they moved on to Pokemon Sun and Moon, which I'm fine with. They were, hey, we're going to talk about Pokemon for a little bit, and then we're going to go straight back to Zelda. So I figured it'd take about 5-10 minutes. Took about 40 minutes of the presentation. Like, if it was any other game that'd been like, oh sweet, we get to see some in-depth, but it's fucking Pokemon. It starts the same way every time. We don't really need a walkthrough of it. So that's kind of the problem with that. I mean, it's Pokemon. There's not much else. I mean, the fact that they've rendered all the trainers in their full size instead of shrunken down size, I think that's pretty cool. The new region looks pretty cool. Alola, I think it's called. Just the whole. I've always liked the tropical setting for video games. I just like it. I think there's a lot you can do with it. Even in like a sinister way or a more playful way, you can do a lot with it. But Pokemon does not need a 40-minute segment to talk about it. I mean, there's new Pokemon, new trainers, new region. That's pretty much all you need to know. You can cover that in about 2-3 minutes. So that was the Pokemon Sun and Moon segment. Also, the commentators were a little. They sounded a little disinterested. The English ones. They were like, "Oh, so Mr. I forgot what the guy's name was. So director, would you like to tell us some more, a little bit about the game?" It was like, guys, miss coffee today, or anyway, I'm being mean. I'm a mean person. Anyway, so that was the Pokemon Sun and Moon segment. Then we moved on to Zelda Breath of the Wild. That looked pretty cool. Finally getting to see some Zelda Wii U stuff. The cell shading is a little more intense than I thought it would be. And there was a couple questionable parts in the trailer, whereas some parts, graphically speaking wise, looked a little rough, and some parts looked absolutely gorgeous when Link is sneaking up to the horse in the meadow and then hopping on it. That was a beautifully rendered segment. But there was a couple segments beforehand where it's like panning through and there's like a treetop and it's like fucking a texture. Well, treetop with the leaves that look 2D, which at this point shouldn't really be a thing anymore. When it comes to palm trees, that shouldn't be a thing. If it was like regular trees, then I get it. You can't render each leaf. But if it's like a palm tree, you can figure it out. So the new Zelda stuff is actually very interesting because it's really starting to do something different. That is kind of the thing when it comes to uh, game companies nowadays saying like they revitalize the formula without changing too many things. Sorry, but with this Zelda and the presentation, there's a lot of things that are different, and I'm not sure if I like all of them. There's a couple of them that are cool. The fact that you can just go anywhere you want, that's kind of cool. You can just explore. Um, what else? I don't know. Just the feeling of exploration is kind of cool. I haven't seen too many of the new items besides what's in the trailer. They look a little bizarre. Um, you can switch weapons. You have new weapons. You have new pickups that you can use. The durability is a little weird. I've always been iffy about durability in weapons in video games. The only time where it wasn't that annoying was probably Dying Light. I think that's the only game that had breakable weapons where it wasn't annoying because in stuff like Dead Island, uh, Dead Rising, that's always been an issue when it like breaks after 3 uses. Um, so I'm not sure about that. But the game does look very pretty. It looks very open. Maybe a little too open. The Grand Plateau that they showed, um, it didn't look like it had a lot in it. And that's actually the next thing. This wasn't actually part of the presentation. There was an alternate article on the game that said that there was going to be no towns. That I don't like. Because part of the what I like part of exploration is going through, exploring the lands, but also seeing what the people are like in this area. That's always what I liked. The fact that there's no towns that bothers me. They didn't say that there wasn't going to be any NPCs because there is one in the presentation. The old man, who you take his apple and he's like, "Hey, get the fuck out of here!" And then he's like, "Ah, I'm just kidding. You can have it. I mean, don't leave me alone." Um, so I'm not sure how I feel about there being no towns. I definitely don't like it. I wish there were because it's always interesting to find towns. The lands are pretty cool, but towns I feel like they're a lot cooler depending on how they're depicted. Also, it's just a resting area just to get away from everything. So that was pretty much Nintendo's conference. I don't know what the hell they were doing, but it seems like every year they're like shrinking down their conferences. Um, I think 2012 was the last actual conference they did, and then in 2013 to 2015, it was a direct, and then now it's just like, oh, we're a treehouse, and we're gonna broadcast this E3. Okay, thanks, guys. Um, so yeah, whatever. The conference itself was pretty poop. Um, but the games they showed were alright. The Pokemon segment was way too long. But the Zelda stuff they showed was pretty cool. Um, so yeah, I think that's it for Nintendo's conference. What is my most? So we're gonna get to what I thought about E3. E3 was weird this year. It was weird because I expected some of the heavy hitters to come from Microsoft, Nintendo, which they kind of did deliver on, and Sony. Microsoft did have a lot of cool stuff, not as cool as I would have expected. Sony fell apart, and Nintendo was like, "Oh, hey, here's cool stuff." And like, "Cool. Anything else?" And they're like, "No, not really." So that was it for that. But on the flip side, I did get to see a lot of cool games from the other companies. So that's it. Also, no Square Enix conference this year. I found that a little weird. Also, no Kingdom Hearts 3 coverage. That makes me a little nervous. But anyway, also no word of Final Fantasy VII. Well, I think there is. Square Enix did something a little different this year. They didn't have an actual conference. They had segments from the E3 days. So I'm gonna have to look at that. But technically, Square Enix did not have a conference, so I'm just going off of that. Um, excuse me. So E3 was a little weird. I'm not sure if I would say it was good or not. But it was definitely one of those ones I had to think about for a while. So my favorite game from each conference, the ones I'm most looking forward to. I'm not gonna pick like a game of E3 because it's hard to compare all of them. So let's see. The first one was EA. So Titanfall 2. I'm really excited for Titanfall 2. The shooting uh, looks as fast as before. I did see that there was an article saying that they've toned it down a little bit so new people could hop on, which not sure if I like that because I love Titanfall, the original Titanfall's speediness. I loved it. So I'm not sure if I hope they don't tone it down too much. But yeah, that's still the game I'm most excited for coming from EA. So Bethesda, Dishonored 2. I blooshed all over it. So it's no surprise that Dishonored 2 is going to be my game from Bethesda. It just looks interesting. The new area looks interesting. The new powers look fun to play around with. So I'm interested in Dishonored 2. The game I'm most interested in from Bethesda. Alright, and then next was Microsoft. Now, this one I had to think about a little bit. Because my knee-jerk reaction was ReCore, but then I tried to think of another game that I'm most excited for. So I started thinking about Scalebound, Sea of Thieves, but I still think it's ReCore. ReCore does look very... Scalebound, I'm pretty sure is going to fall into the same Platinum Games rut, where all of their games kind of play the same. It does look interesting, and I am definitely going to get it, but it does kind of look like the same thing as other Platinum games, except for, like, dragons and stuff. I think ReCore has a lot more to it. It just looks more interesting. I like the different robots. The fact that Keiji Inafune is working on it, the creator of Mega Man, that's pretty cool. In the trailer that we finally get to see gameplay of, that looked very versatile, very shooty. I like it a lot. So, actually, I think that may have been one of my favorite trailers of E3. The one with, like, the artistic opening to it. I really like that artistic opening. And the music, at first I didn't like it, but then I got it because it just matched the rhythm of the gameplay. So, I did like that. So I think ReCore is going to be both my favorite trailer and my favorite Microsoft game for E3 this year. Ubisoft. This is the hard one because they showed a lot of cool stuff. I think it's a solid tie for different reasons. The first one is Steep, the last game that they showed. That does look very interesting. I've always been weirded out by sports games that have that cut before you crash, that are kind of like, oh, it's for the sport, it's so you can see the points. But Steep, it looks like it's a game that's more meant to just have fun. And by have fun, crash into everything and die. Because those people are dead. If you people watch the Steep E3 2016 presentation, there are a couple people that are just straight up dead. There's no way they're alive. So it's a tie between Steep and South Park Fractured But Whole. Now, I did make a lot of, oh, it's the best game. I did make a lot of jokes like that. But seriously, the original Stick of Truth was a very good game. It had very solid mechanics. The world aspect, I really like that. It was just really well designed. It was honestly really well designed from a gameplay standpoint. And the humor of it is toilet humor. There's no denying that. But it never... I don't think it gets to the point where it's insufferable. As long as you tune in to the game's humor, you can find some humor in it. As long as you tune properly, you're not going to get a whole lot of complicated jokes. They're just going to be firing out. And Fractured But Whole does look like a better version of Stick of Truth. The movement aspect to the battle system is a little strange. But yeah, those two games I'm really excited for that I think come this year. No, Fractured Butthole comes out next year, I think. No, it comes out this year, December 6th. Steep, I think, comes out next year. So yeah, that was Ubisoft stuff. Sony. Probably Last Guardian. I kind of want to say Horizon because it does look like the more interesting gameplay, but I think Last Guardian is just one of those things. It's been announced for years, and it's finally coming out, so I think that's technically the game I'm most anticipating because I do want to play it. It did look interesting from the very first trailer that they dropped of that game, all the way up to now where it's finally coming out. I've never played a Shadow of the Colossus or Ico, so it's going to be an interesting first experience. But I think that's the most anticipated game. So Nintendo, Zelda, easy. There's no fucking competition. There's two games, so it's Pokemon or Zelda. Zelda, obviously. Some of the Zelda stuff I'm a little weirded out by because of no towns, stuff like that. So that worries me, but I'm still excited for it. So again, E3 this year was very strange. Again, the companies I didn't expect to have that much did actually have some interesting stuff, and the companies that I did expect either didn't do as well as I thought, or just kind of slapped their conference together, and that was it. So I'm not sure if I would call E3 this year a success. A lot of people liked E3 this year. I'm a little indifferent on it. I did get a lot of cool stuff, but not from the people I expected it from. And the people I did expect to get cool stuff from, it didn't really pan out as well as I thought. So yeah, that was E3 2016 for this year for me. E3 2016 this year. Yeah, I'm redundant. So yeah, that's it. I'm pretty much in the minority for most of my opinions, but if you guys like this, thanks. There's not really much else I can say. It's not like one of those things like, if you like this video, go ahead, check out this, because this is the only type of these are the only type of videos that I'm doing. How do I end it? Bye.